Hello, and welcome to the Aurora Podcast, where we discuss beyond our textbook topics, as well as explore different career paths in order to advance and diversify our knowledge. My name is Ben Land, and today I'm going to be interviewing with Colton McCoy.
We would like to mention that we are gathered at the Walking Museum, which seeks to stimulate curiosity about our cultural, natural, and historical landscapes from the youngest to the oldest of minds. Thank you for letting us film here.
Yes, and today we are interviewing an artist who actually has her work featured here currently. Her name is Mina Afshari, and would you mind introducing yourself a little to our audience?
Sure. My name is Mina Afshari, and I'm currently based in Carmel, California, and I'm originally from Iran.
Very nice. So, I know you have quite the amazing story of how you're even, sitting here today. Um, you've kind of discovered your art and that you've had a love for art, and that medium has kind of taken through photography. Why do you think you chose photography? What stood out to you about photography?
Uh, I didn't really intend to become an artist at all. During the pandemic, I had started a business to kind of created like a curbside pickup to help people who had health issues to shop food from the farmers market. And then I thought, well, I have to be able to market this on, social media like Facebook and Instagram, so people would know that, this is happening. So I started like taking like pictures of like produce in the um, farmers market, and I was like, well, how can I better get a better angle of that zucchini? And then so I kind of kept starting doing that with my phone, and then I started researching how do people take pictures of produce. And there are beautiful pictures on Instagram and other places, and I got obsessed. And later I bought a camera and kind of started learning how to kind of use the camera. And then I live in this very dark apartment in Carmel, and I only have like a single window that really gets any sort of light, and only limited amount of time because it's very, very low light. And so then my pictures became very dramatic. And then so yeah, that's kind of how it started. I really didn't think I'm an artist. Somehow people started thinking my photos are very beautiful. And and so how I ended up being called an artist was that I was trying to help a friend out who was going through some really hard times, and I create like a fundraising event, and I sold some of my photos to help him pay for his medical bills, and somehow the newspapers wrote about it, and it became a thing, and led me to here.
As you've figured out that you've started to enjoy taking photos, and especially of produce to help raise awareness, have you found or stumbled across any sort of deep connection between you and your artwork that changes how you live today?
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, for me, it became an extremely healing process because, um, I mean, it's deeply personal, but I have shared it a lot. I mean, through my art, I, I'm, I've had a very traumatic upbringing, and it really kind of erased my personality in who I was. Um, I, I was so fearful that I had completely lost the ability to make decisions. And I just thought my life was over, like in many, many ways. And just being able to like, I don't know if you've seen my photographs. Like,
Yeah.
I arrange things in a kind of specific, dramatic way, and being able to make that decision of where certain things go, or like the colors are very specific. I create those colors. Those are not how colors are, like things are there. So just being able to like choose things, um, it gave me power, like almost like I was like how I was constructing my still life. I was also almost putting myself back together, almost like stitching myself back together from like years of trauma. And it's very interesting like how healing this became. But that's not how I intended it to be. But I just noticed that um, for many years I almost like didn't have my feet on the ground, and then standing there doing my work, I started almost feeling my whole body, doing photography, and I was like, wow, this is the first time ever I am actually in my body, and it just was amazing.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and I think with having a passion like that, it's
Yeah.
really it's what you want to put a lot of work into.
Yeah.
And I know you're also studying economics.
Yeah, so that's actually comes in a way that, like, before that, I grew up being very, very gifted academically. I was a math nerd and like all that stuff. But because of horrible stuff happening, I had 10 years of complete limbo. And that's why I say, like, I thought life was over, because I had this trajectory of thinking that I'm just gonna create beautiful things in this world. And then I was like almost 10 years of just being in this darkness of dark, and I never pursued anything that I could, because I was in a very bad place. And then because of this doorway that opened through this work, I was able to like go back to school, and to one of the schools that I really liked, and to one of the programs that I really liked. And it's just kind of like one positive step can be extremely powerful. And that's one of the hopes I have through my work, is to inspire people to never give up. It's never too late, and to see the light within themselves, and that's always there. Just don't give up.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So we've already taken a sneak peek at your exhibit, and it's really cool. And I've noticed that you have some poems hanging next to some of your artwork. And I noticed that the poems were from different authors. And so I was wondering, what is the process of finding finding the poems that go with your art? What does that look like?
Actually, that wasn't necessarily how I chose it. I was asked to kind of put a description next to my work, and
Gotcha.
I realized that sometimes it's so painful to talk about certain things, but these artists they've been part of me for a long time, and I realized they can tell some things I cannot yet verbalize. There are some things I can, and you saw like some of the things are in my own words, and there are some things that I just am not ready. Okay. And I thought, let them say something that I cannot. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting just seeing, the visual side with your photographs as well as, a poem. And it's interesting to see
yeah,
how they build off of each other.
Cool.
In your work. Yeah. Something I'm curious about is the process for getting the colors right itself.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you have to, do you do any sort of editing to your photos, or?
Yeah, like sometimes some photos take months, like 6 months more. I mean, it's crazy. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
It takes like some of them just look nothing like how I took it, especially in the beginning when I had very cheap lenses, and I had no idea like what a difference the good lens would make. I just thought, well, lens to lens. Why would I? And also, I didn't have the budget for it. I still don't, but now I know it's important. But it's like, it's like, oh, so that's why they cost so much,
gotcha.
because they make a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still, like, yeah, the colors. I mean, when I'm editing, and also when I'm taking a picture, there is an alignment I feel like right here. So when I have the colors right, then it settles. Otherwise, I can be there for months looking at something and keep fidgeting and making the color, and until it's right, it doesn't settle. And it's not like I can tell you what it is, I just feel it.
Something I noticed that I read was you like to investigate the stories behind CEOs and founders of companies as well.
Yeah.
And I was just curious what your thoughts and what makes those so interesting to you.
It's a very good question, because I just feel it, I guess, in my body. Like I just feel like they're my people. Like I feel very connected to them and their stories. these are the people who are very resilient, and that really connects to me. I mean, um, there are stories or things they go through, and then they triumph, and then they create something magnificent that it affects a lot of our lives. I mean, some people like they change the world. Like we think about like I mean, a lot of us know of Steve Jobs or like
Yeah.
Elon Musk or whatever, but there are other people a lot of times we don't really hear about because they're more in the background, but they affect a lot of people because they're very special kind of people. A person that can say, I'm gonna create something and I'm gonna risk my life and I'm not gonna take a normal path in life. It's just a very interesting story, and most of the time these people have had very unusual upbringing, and their stories just really stirs me. I just love their story and how their stories actually ends up affecting the way they treat other people. And then think about all the people who work under them and how their the upbringing of the CEO affects the way they treat all of these people, and how all of these people have that work for the CEO have families, and how like all of this has a ripple effects into the societies just beyond the product that's being made. Like it's like a whole thing, it's a whole culture that's being made just by this one person.
Yeah, oh for sure. I
Yeah,
definitely agree. You know, they have super interesting stories because they've created something and they've, you know, put a lot of risk into it
yeah,
on themselves, whether, you know, you don't know if this is going to work or not.
yeah,
And I think, you know, you can almost compare that to your art because you put a lot of risk when you take a photo. You know, you might spend 6 months editing it and then it just, you can't really use it because it doesn't, you know, feel right to you.
yeah. But I mean, beyond art for me, like I also am a very entrepreneurial person, and I mean, at one point I want to create something, and that's just part me. So I connect with them because of that, you know.
Hmm. Right, you did mention that you started a business, correct? Or did you do?
Yeah, I had started a business, and years before I had tried to start another business. It's kind of failed for a variety of reasons. But yeah, but I mean that's the thing about startups, and that's why I'm so impressed because a lot of startups you start, you fail. Like I don't know, it's a big percentage of 90 something percent it just fails. So the kind of personality that's willing to take that risk, that I'm gonna go into this, although I know big chance I'm gonna fail.
Yeah.
So, but not looking at that, looking at the creation. That's pretty amazing to me.
What sort of business would you hope to create? What would you hope to accomplish by doing so?
I want to create a platform that helps us with greed, because I feel like greed is something that is, you know, a lot of times people look at people who have greed with um, judgment. And they look at people who don't have, let's say, the unhoused, with pity, right? But they look at people who, like, let's say, they're overconsume with kind of judgment. They don't understand that as much as the person who is dealing with poverty, the person who's dealing with overconsumption, both of them are suffering. The person who is dealing with greed, they have some kind of pain inside of them that they have to kind of overconsume to cover up, right? So I'm hoping to create some kind of some solution to help people to kind of become aware of whatever they're trying to cover up, and heal that, so that in the process that extra that they would use to cover up their pain would overflow to help the person who doesn't have enough, but not in a way to force people to do charity. I don't think the charitable things that we do right now, like those don't work, because when you force people to do charity, it almost, I feel like, I mean, I don't say it doesn't work, but it doesn't work as much as it could, because people almost brace against it. um, so yeah, so that's my goal. Because, you know, I don't know if you've heard of these um, kind of giving pledges that the billionaires have, you know, that they like to give like a lot of their, you know, I don't know, 90 something percent of what they have during their lifetime. I feel like we don't need to be billionaires to think like that.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's definitely also a lot you can do for your community with volunteering
Yeah.
work as well. And there is, that's a
Yeah.
definite big goal to try and help. Do you think um, that is possible to accomplish through art? To kind of have a
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, part of the reason I'm studying economics is for me to understand how to achieve my goal. I mean, I thought about going for a PhD. I thought about different things to understand how to achieve what I want to achieve, but I haven't really figured it out yet.
Mhm. With economics, you're studying economics and you do photography.
Right.
And to me, those are two very
Well, yeah.
separate things.
Yeah.
Are you trying to connect those two, main ideas together at all? Or are you kind of keeping your education and your passion more separate?
That's a good question. I'm trying to be myself. I'm just following. I've struggled with that a lot because part of me just, if you ask my dream job, actually is not. I mean, photography is enjoyable. I would want to be a sculptor, and I'm taking steps on that. And like, I've got a job now. I'm welding. I'm learning to like work with metal, and that's the next step in art for me. But um, as far as I don't know, I'm just like going forward with what feels right at the moment. I'm just trying not to kind of cling to either. I'm just going forward. I have no idea. It doesn't make sense at all to me what I'm doing with the art and the economics and any of it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's totally understandable. Like I'm sort of the same position in high school. I don't know what I want to do, and
Yes.
it's definitely a process trying to find that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think with your process, you've also learned, just hearing your story, you've learned a lot about what you like to do with photography. Do you have any advice to someone who might be interested in starting to create photography and artwork?
Yeah. I would say create for yourself and don't do it for anybody else's eye. Um, Even for this show, like a lot of people tried to give me feedback and they did. And even like for the orientation of one of the photographs, I took advice from somebody and I literally, after it was printed, I sent it over. And then after I was like, but that doesn't look good. I had to like reprint the way it originally was and resend it. I realized that things only ever look good when I'm creating for me in my own eyes. And that's your art created for yourself and it would become magical. Otherwise, it just will be not authentic and not sustainable because you want to be able to do something that you can do it for a long time and it will be very, very special.
Yeah, sure. And that totally makes sense with, you want to create art for yourself and it's great, that you're getting the recognition and I think you deserve the recognition and that's because, you've stayed true to yourself and done what you feel like looks good and it does and
Well, it's not just about it looking good, because art is not, well, looking good is important, but how do I say, it's like there is a feeling no matter what you create, you're communicating something through your work. It's like, it's not just like, let's say a table that's just like, it's out there. It's like you're creating something, you're putting something in that piece of art that people will have an emotional reaction to. So it's really important that you're putting yourself into it so that somebody will have that somebody will be moved. It doesn't matter that I had just started like a couple months before. People were moved when they saw it. So, and for me, it was kind of shocking, but I was just truly being my authentic self. And that's really what I take away, is that just be you.
Yeah, sure. And I think that's a great message to end on. So thank you all for tuning in. And thank you, Mina, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've learned a lot about just kind of your artistic process, and we'll link some of your artwork down below so
Sure.
people viewing can check it out. So
Great.
thank you, and see you all next time.